Salutations and welcome to another edition of X-Men 97. I'm your boy Ekard here with my partner in crime.
Hey guys, what's up? It's OTK.
Oh man, so hopefully you guys are having a great day. Yeah, last week went by pretty fast with a lot of things that happened. I know you wanted to clear up some things from last week as well. So
I did, but I left. Wait, let me cook. I'll just cook all together at the end. Let's watch this episode first, and then I'll get my pots and pans and my seasonings ready, and we'll chop it up, and hopefully I have a little plate for you guys to enjoy.
All right, well, with that said, let's jump right into it, folks. Give you guys out there English subs for yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was watching Blue again.
Yeah.
So.
Just for Patreon.
Just reminds me that I'm different.
Because people will be like, oh, it's English, but we need the English subs just in case.
Okay, thanks, Magneto.
Get him a pony for his sweet 16th.
My parents perished when I was a child.
Oh.
Who's got two thumbs that blast fireworks and turns 18 today? Me. Happy birthday to all
No.
ears.
Kid who,
Stalker,
had a tough childhood, so she gets it. I mean, big that.
Okay.
Oh, and it's my brother's birthday. Happy birthday to my brother.
Hey, shout out to your brother. Shout out to your brother.
This one isn't mine. Never even heard of a Motendo.
Ooh, it's like what the fuck is this movie? It kind of gives me the reminiscence of the first the Nightmare on Elm Street, where Johnny Depp gets sucked into the bed.
Uh-oh. We've been
We've been what? What have we been?
Isekai. We're in another world, folks. The virtual world.
And
Do you really think everyone is focused on you?
rich kid problems. Rich kid problems. Like, I get it. It's like being queer to get found out holding your partner's hand out in public or being too close. Plus also rich kid problems, but
Loading.
Oh, hold up.
Sunfire, that looked like Domino, and that looked like Warpath at the start.
I didn't do that.
Maybe it was her.
Was that you, Hot Topic Stalker? Calling us?
Oh, okay.
Totally in a video game. Totally. Just what I was hoping.
Mojo.
What in the name of...
Sorry.
Looks like you
Much like
dieting?
a life shit.
Got some nip, some tuck. Actually, it's Namarine. You're not just in a video game, honey. You're the star.
Uh-oh.
Numero uno of my game. You connect with the
Damn, just gonna brush over that.
I laugh because it's a whole Dazzler gets caught up in Mojo World, has a relationship with Longshot in the comics, so he's kind of just saying, well, Dazzler's busy, so I had to get someone else.
Yep.
I'll dominate the galaxies and the 18 to 45 age.
I shot at
No, he's just
None of this has been real.
Well, you lied.
Sword Art Online, folks. For animes out there.
Turn those
Magneto.
Wow.
different worlds. Divorce court. Summer.
Yo, divorce court, bro.
You're my X-Men Jubilee, so
Yo, bro.
But Children of the Atom Easter egg.
Bro, we are going all the way back.
Damn.
Even the music. Yep. Sprinkle in the 8-bit music. Wow. The pixel art is here. Yo, wait, the beat 'em up fighters. Wow. Bro.
An arcade game that is what they're referencing.
Boo boo. Uh-oh. Like, yo, what's gives, bro?
She's at it again.
Spiral.
Please hug me and magic me with all your arms, Spiral, you crazy ass bitch.
Oh man.
It's like live streaming video games.
I acted like I
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
tried to stay out of here.
What's the rush?
Back then, you could only imagine watching other people play video games.
You had to do that at arcade.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
You have to wait your turn, but now it's like a whole business. Oh, damn. Typical boss battle shenanigans.
come on, Jubilee. Y'all don't know about Jubilee's power, man. Y'all don't know. She's young in this series, but y'all don't know the extent of my girl's powers. Like,
Broken. Or did you? He's like, even like, bro, what's going on? This wasn't in the script.
to that on me, Jesus.
The plot twist. Mojo.
Zip it, DaCosta.
Like I said, we go way back.
Oh,
Now
I mean, crazy, cute.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. Steam Grays.
It always stays the same. That's not living.
Yeah.
Living doesn't get
Gotta grow up.
or extra lives, but it has buddies. Totally
Magneto
one thing.
was right.
Now, what do you say we destroy Mojo's game and get you two lovebirds out of here?
Lovebirds. Yeah, cheaters, huh? I guess technically this would have been where the commercial would have happened. Back in the days, that is.
Yep, if this was on TV.
Yeah.
It ain't over till the fat desperate sing.
Oh no.
Rats might have canceled me.
That's a Nebula. Yeah, nah, that's yeah. Yeah. Naruto ain't got nothing on that. Oh. Yeah. That's game is fried.
Roberto, you
Lovebirds indeed.
Oh.
Fireworks is on happening. Happy birthday, Jubilee. Oh man.
Or a thing that'll store your mutant powers?
Or a bowl of this delicious chili.
Yep, we're chilly.
Okay.
I'm your man.
I like that. Girl doing grown as adult.
Like I said, helps to get out.
We just hiding Easter eggs in the
Yes,
background.
I'm just like looking real cool.
Yeah.
Devices that could be used to neutralize dangerous mutants.
No. You made these? Think those in Washington?
Speaking of
Yeah.
Who's hurting, lost, bitter, would never conceive of a thing as perfect as you.
oh shit, what?
To your redemption.
Oh,
You are a goddess.
Mm.
But I love you.
You made me a goddess. Instead, you have fashioned a fool.
The
stream of fire.
Damn, son. Whose illusion are we in? Or not illusion?
Is it the Shadow King? Is it the Shadow King?
Get out of my home, you damn demon!
Or is it?
Jesus.
No. Wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute.
Suffering, despairing. I feast on misery, and I, the adversary, shall not waste my meal.
All right. The adversary, Kayla. It seems your mind has been blown.
Wow.
Oh man.
Wow, guys. Wow.
Is it time for Kayla to cook?
Woo. Okay. Okay. Let me try. Okay. I think so last week, I had an issue with fully getting my thoughts together because I was so excited about the episode. I'm having that problem again with just the revelation at the end of this episode, right? So let's talk a few things. Okay, so last week, I after watching the episode and having it digest and then, seeing other people's reaction to the episode after a couple days and just seeing other X fans discuss it, I just want to tag in and say, like, I was extremely excited about Madeline's turn as the Goblin Queen. But like I said, the issue is how fast that they went through that story, the Inferno story. Just want to say it's just like, it's kind of like, there's a TikToker. Hold on, let me see if I find her. And then I'll come back and liken it to what I'm talking about. But the issue that I have with like Madeline choosing the moniker the Goblin Queen, it's a thing that a lot of people discussed over the past week, is why that name?
Yeah. Right.
Because there's no indication on why you would choose that name if nothing, fire and brimstone happened to you for you. Like, it's just weird for her to choose that name without any reasoning. Yeah. So it's like, it's one of those situations where you made the story you condensed the story so much, you left out parts of what make choosing the name, or what makes the name relevant or important, or why the name was chosen. Yeah. I kept saying last week that the demon that she signed a contract with was Belasco. It's not Belasco. Belasco is stuff to do with magic. Ileana Rasputin. The demon's name is Sim. Sim kind of does the whole sell your soul to me. Your life is going to shit anyway. Here you are, your husband abandons you for his ex-girlfriend. Your son is gone. He's not even looking for your son. And you're out here in the middle of Australia doing I mean, she was helping the X-Men a lot. She was the girl at the computer, helping out with missions. Madeline was being a bad bitch in Australia with the rest of the X-Men at the team at the time. But, a lot happened. And the fact that, you're seeing news coverage of your husband with his ex-girlfriend that he questioned whether or not you were her or not, it's a blow, right? So she essentially sells her soul to the devil. Yeah. Not on purpose, on accident, kind of. It was a dream and, whatever. But read Inferno, it's great. But yeah, that's kind of the issue a lot of us are having with her choosing the name Goblin Queen, because it kind of comes out of nowhere in last week's episode. Like, why choose? Why you, like, a TikTok I saw was like Scott asking her, "You had a thing with goblins I didn't know about," and it's like that. It's like, okay, you were, girl, was your hyperfixation ghouls and goblins, and you didn't tell any of us? Like, how could we not have seen that? So it's the issue I think I'm gonna have at the end of all this, at the end of the 10 episodes, where it's the pacing, the number of episodes, and how much we're kind of just throwing in for excitement. I still love last week's episode. Last week's episode was so much fun. I can't wait to rewatch it and like re-dissect it and recontextualize it. And I waited to rewatch it. I didn't watch it because I kind of wanted to, even though maybe I should have, I probably would have gotten my thoughts a bit better together. But yeah, it's kind of just stuff like that when so again, I must reiterate, I have not read every X-Men comic book. I have a lot of cliff notes in my head for the situations in these storylines. But it's a really big crossover story event with X-Men books and a couple of outside X-Men team books too, like Daredevil and things like that.
Yeah.
A whole situation happens in New York, like she turns New York into a hellscape. Like it's a whole thing. But, being that it is like magic adjacent is part why she's called the Goblin. So again, it's like choosing these stories without giving context to why these beats are happening, right? Okay. And then sorry, I kind of got lost. I was so caught up in my own head. Where is this YouTuber? Because I want to make sure she's a black nerd female YouTuber, and I want to make sure I give her the right props for pointing this out about Storm's mohawk. Because as soon as she can like contextualize it and put it together for me, I was like, yeah, I think she was spot on, right on the money, and I just want to make sure I shout her out properly. I don't want to not give her props. It's very important that when, especially in our community for women and for Black nerds, that we shout out the right people and we give spotlight to us, right? On TikTok, she's Tiffy Starchild. So check out her video, and she talks about Storm getting the mohawk and what it means for her getting the mohawk. Basically, Storm meets this woman Yukio at Logan's wedding in Japan, and through Yukio's influence is why Storm cuts her hair, changes her look, changes her outlook on life, and goes on to become this like Tiffy says, it's leather mommy badass. She cuts off her hair. It's a new lease on life. Whereas you just jumping into Storm having the mohawk, it's like you're missing that part of the story that connects to why she has this haircut. What new lease on life? Why it's like this? A lot of fans from Jump, when they showed the art for X-Men 97, were like, well, why what are we getting that story plot? Like, why doesn't she have a mohawk now? A lot of fans are not. I'm personally not, especially after the last couple years in comics. We've seen Storm with very natural, very cloudy, curly, very Black woman hair, and it's been absolutely gorgeous. And in that as well, that they styled it in a lot of the artwork so that it still looks like a mohawk, but she still has all her hair. So they kind of marry all of Storm's looks into, I don't want to say what's coming up, because what's coming up is a fucking disaster. Marry into what we've had in the last couple years very nicely and very succinctly. But check out her TikTok. She explains it way better than I do. And I don't want to take the shine off of her. But for me, it contextualizes especially how I feel with what happened with Maddie. You're throwing out these parts of the story without contextualizing why these choices were made for the character or by the character. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. Also that, poos to both of us for not realizing Maddie's magical girl transformation last week. I really was too excited about her just transforming that we didn't clock it. And then literally after we recorded a couple hours later, someone threw up an edit with the Sailor Moon transformation music. And I was like, yes, oh my God, fucking great. It was lovely, loved it.
The second time it's happened in American Medium, because the last time outside of the DC side was Superman that had the magical girl transformation.
Yes, in recent years it was Superman, and I know in a Titans movie, I don't know if they go by Teen Titans in the animated movies, but in the Titans movie, Starfire does a magical girl transformation as well. In the comics, Magic gets a magical girl transformation, so it's like it's just really nice,
iconic.
It's like what I mentioned yesterday when we watched Slime, how it's us millennials growing up and then drawing these things, creating this art, and throwing in these Easter eggs like this to make other millennials smile and just get really hyped for what's happening. It's the influences we grew up with are now seeping into the media we're still consuming, which I think is like very interesting, because obviously I can't really speak for someone older than me and how influences of those artists transferred over like the same time that they were growing up, like when you're a kid reading comic books and your friends get into comic books and like throw in stuff. I can't really speak to that. All I can speak is in an aspect of a millennial. How we grew up with so much media influence. Shout out to also Mojo highlighting that we grew up with so much media influence that we are now just sprinkling it into the art we create and the art we put out into the world. So big props to that. Everyone doing a magical girl transformation. It just shows the power of Sailor Moon. It shows the power of animation and how anime like influences American media and American audience. Like it's such a huge influence on the art we create, on the subjects we talk about, the content we create. So big ups to that.
Big ups for reals. Oh, man.
All right. I'm sure I had other thoughts about last week's episode, but I honestly have to rewatch it. It kind of feels like a fever dream, honestly. All right, this week's episode. So we'll talk about the first half.
Okay. The
Motendo. Yeah.
It's online.
Which again, it's like it's not a trope that isn't uncommon in other American media. Like, let's take a look at Tron. I don't know if you've ever watched Tron.
Look at this real quick, because the episode 4 spoilers out of context and whatnot. If people were really on it for X-Men 97, so you have Sword Art Online, right? And you have, when I said Naruto ain't got shit on Jubilee, the Raw said Shuriken, because I was like, she has a whole nebula in her hand. And literally, that's what happens when you get hit with this shit. Is what happened to Mojo, and then this storm, and then this Sakura slapping the shit out of these guys. So it's just funny. Anime fans have been on it. So
like we all know, right? We all know. We could contextualize it in other media. Like I love that shit. Okay. So anyway, like I was saying, jumping into the game world is not a new trope in American media anyway. Movies like Tron.
Yeah.
If people, they get sucked into an arcade game. Other what am I thinking? Oh, Page Master. A kid gets sucked into the book world.
Yeah.
So it's essentially just getting, not necessarily isekai, because isekai you die to go to, but it's a similar.
Not specifically die. It's just that's more popular way of being transported. But isekai just means like being transported to another world. Yeah. Because
our girlies and rare, if they don't die, they just get transported. True that, Girl Scout. But yeah, so I really like that. But I think it's meant to be reminiscent, aside from the influences, obviously, of anime and animation media and media that's come out in the last couple of years. I also feel like it's a callback to stuff like Tron, because since it's happening in the 90s and Tron came out in the 80s, just kind of weaving that through. The whole bed scene, like I said, it reminded me of Johnny Depp's death scene in the first Friday. I keep calling Friday. It's Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street, where he gets sucked in. Like, it's a famous shot. The boy gets sucked into the bed. He's just, and just blood, like, like, if you haven't seen the first Nightmare on Elm Street, just go. At least just go. It was a little much. Great, but crazy. Oh God. What they used to do in the 70s and 80s with a little to no not CGI, that shit was practical effects, bro.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my love for practical effects is another whole conversation. Mojo, I think Mojo is a character that was created by Anna Senti, I believe. Again, please fact check me. In the 80s, and it's kind of and and it was kind of her take on, before it got big, the ideals of reality TV and the consumption of media, mass media, and how it's controlled, and how TV controls the masses and shit like that, and who's really pulling the strings. So I like when you watch the first episode, and he even talks about it, like it's kind of, he very expositioned who he was in this episode for people who hadn't watched the series or who don't know who he is. He runs a slave planet, and keeps his slaves at bay or in control through them watching basically not reality TV, but like, how do I explain this without it being too crazy? Okay, so at some point he shows one of the, and Bessie Braddock replaces her eyes with mechanical camera eyes, and through her eyes it like links to Mojo World so that they see the adventures of the X-Men, which is like its own reality TV, and that's how he keeps his slaves subservient, right? So they have an episode about that in the original series. I do like that they transferred over to the idea of video games, because it's like we were talking about during the episode, it's like live streaming very much. It's just like, we take the time. We don't really watch TV anymore as a community. It's not really big events, like people used to gather on the TV for episodes and shit like that. The populace doesn't really do that anymore. What we do is we gather around streamers and YouTubers, and people who play video games. I love that. Like, you stream, I stream. It's fun. I love doing it. But I think that it's like, it's making it relevant to the situation that are happening currently in our world, in our fandom. Whereas before, the big talk was like reality TV episodes and stuff like that. Now it's video games. So it makes perfect sense for Mojo to deviate from TV to video games. So it's Mojo, the whole thing, look it up. It's a very interesting concept about media, mass production, mass media, and control. It's like, so I also want to show my favorite podcast, Cerebro. A lot of the information that I get for a bunch of books I haven't read about a bunch of characters that, even though they're mutants, I really don't give two shits about. I've gotten a lot of information from that podcast. He does an episode about Mojo, so if you want to learn more, I say go listen to that. It's very concise, very explanatory, and it's a good listen. I love his show. It's well over 100 episodes, and his big 100th episode was actually an episode about Madeline Pryor that lasts about 20 hours. A 20-hour podcast about Madeline Pryor. So if you have the time, I say go listen to that. It's a fucking great episode. But he's pretty much covered a lot of the bigger X-Men too. So if you want to find out what they've been doing in the comics, and just things that could kind of relate to storylines that are happening now, it's like something like The Adversary or Lifedeath with Storm. It's a really good listen. Shout out to Cerebro, fucking top tier podcast in my opinion. Great shit. So yeah, now for Storm's story, I was getting hype as it was going on, because like
hilarious.
Aside from hilarious, the People's Princess, thank you very much.
X-Force.
aside from that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, mind you, they have Quicksilver there, because Quicksilver was a mutant, is a mutant still in my opinion, but the comics were like, oh no, he's not a mutant. Fuck the comics. Wanda and Quicksilver are still Magneto's kids and mutants to me. Thank you very much. But yeah, so we've got Forge, we've got Strong Guy. So it's Quicksilver in the blue. Then there's Forge. Havoc right next to Havoc, who is Alex Summers, Scott Summers' younger brother. Polaris, who is now Magneto's daughter, similar powers to Magneto, magnetism. There's Strong Guy, kind of obvious there. Wolfsbane, who is actually a member of the New Mutants, and a lot of people are speculating now with the inclusion of Sunspot, Wolfsbane, Cannonball, Magic. They feel everyone's kind of hoping for a New Mutant spinoff, which would be fucking great. She's a girl who can obviously turn into a wolf. Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's Multiple Man, who can multiply himself.
Yeah.
So I fucking yay to that. It's an episode where they actually Iceman returns to the mansion and he's like his girlfriend Lorna is captured, but it's also like Lorna is also now dating Alex. It's a whole
it's a
thing.
whole
It's a whole thing. Anyway, good episode. But yeah, that was fucking great. Getting my life at that.
Those Easter eggs.
Forge explaining to Storm about his role in the creation of the weapon that took her powers. It's pretty much what happens in the comic books. He's a soldier that fights, I think, is it Vietnam? You have to think sliding time scale wise, considering. So that's why they just say a war happens, because so many wars have happened between his OG story to now. So it's kind of good to kind of just place it in as a war, because it could be any war between then and then and now, right? He loses his leg and he loses his leg, he loses his hand. So same thing. He creates his own prosthetics, same thing. He is down and out, gets hired by the government to create this weapon, and this is what happens, and this is what I was explaining, I think, in episode 2, how in the comic books, Mystique and Destiny are apprised to the situation that's happening. The weapon is actually meant for Rogue, and instead of Rogue getting shot, they machinate and they scheme, well, more so Raven, Mystique schemes to have Storm lose her powers in Lifedeath. So it's following a similar beat, but not the same beat, because sadly Rogue and Mystique are not a part of Forge and Storm's story. Like they took away that connection, which is fine. Like I said, X-Men 92 and 97 are taking cues for the comic books, but are still essentially their own universe. And even in the comic sphere, they've made it known that 92, 97 is a separate multiversal offshoot to 616, which is the main Marvel universe.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, that's fine. I mean, I'm all for, like, I like linking female stories together because it brings connection and bonds. Though a lot of writers don't necessarily drive that along in their stories, which is a major issue, especially have with Rogue. Rogue has a lot of female interaction in her early days, and then kind of just gets reduced to a lovesick, strong girl in the 90s, which I'm also having a problem with now. That someone else pointed out on Twitter that, it seems like Rogue has gotten pushed into a love triangle, and that her story is just is centered around the men in her life, which I love the story. I love the drama. I love the story. I love what they're pulling from. Don't get me wrong, but as Rogue is my number one favorite character in every medium, it is something I've gotten quite tired of in the last couple years, especially growing up and realizing that a woman, especially a woman like her story doesn't need to center around men, but whatever. Okay. I also just want to tack on too, for all you guys that don't know the ins and outs of Rogue, and for all you guys just kind of putting her in the cheater lane and not actually putting respect on my girl's name and thinking that she's just shitting all over Remy just to be with Magneto. You don't know about my girl. Stop talking about my girl. Shut your mouth. It's not even like that. Getting mad.
Oh man.
I'm sorry. Woo! This is not the time or place. But yeah. Anyway, it's not about Rogue, Gambit, and Eric. It's okay. But I also want to say, someone pointed out, maybe it's not that Eric and Magneto and Rogue are futzing about together. The possibility is, or what a lot of us are assuming, is that he's training her how to control her powers, which eventually happens later on in the comics, through a situation with Charles. There's a whole thing, and later on with Spiral, funnily enough, bringing it all full circle, a Spiral situation that happens and helps her recontextualize her anyway, it doesn't matter. Talk about okay. But anyway, that's that. Just want to tack that on there. Stop talking shit about my girl. You don't know shit about my girl. Anyway, back to Story Forge. Yeah, so that he ends up working with the government. Funnily enough, he actually even ends up working with Mystique and her government group. So that's also why I'm just like, oh, it could have been so much richer, and like there's so much that they're taking from the comics, but there's a lot of context that they kind of speed run through. But I guess it's just my hope is it'll get you guys or the wider audience to want to read these books, because these books are great and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And just like amazing reads, depending on the writer and what you like, honestly. But like, yeah, the stories that they're pulling on are revelations. They are stories that help build the characters that you love now, and you know, as I said, they're pulling from these stories. I just wish they would pull a little bit more from here and there, just to contextualize a little bit better. But yeah, so it's that he's it's the same thing too. Like, he tells her, pretty much, I lost my way. I was just making weapons because this is what I was doing, and in turn affected you, Storm. It's similar, same beat for what happens. He explains to her later. He doesn't tell her first, explains to her later, and it's just like, basically calls him a race traitor, and it's drama, guys.
Super drama.
Good shit. But I really like that they really stamped it there, and that I really love that Storm was like, you know, the U.S. government, are you fucking crazy? I'm black, you're Native, you know the U.S. government. What is your deal, bro? So I like that they made sure to add that. I think that it's just like Magneto saying never again. I think moments like lines like this are important to get across just what the X-Men mean and the commentary that they have about the world around them and us.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss for that. Thank you, God.
But the adversary, though.
The adversary. Okay, right. So,
but that's about the cook.
Yes and no. So my knowledge of the adversary is quite limited, but I know it's important. Wait a minute. Wait, I know you don't know what my wait a minute is, because you don't know. So I'm just like, there's a part of me that feels like, so like the adversary is a big deal that happens within this time in the X-Men, so that's why I'm like hyped. But my knowledge for the adversary is limited to what gets discussed on Cerebro, but I've listened to so many episodes I can't quite remember all the parts of the adversary, but there's this little itch in my brain that's like, are they trying to push the X-Men towards the Outback? Like, which is a very famous era, the Outback era. If you follow me on Twitter, I'm the Outback Dazzler, because Dazzler is a part of the Australian team, which also involves Storm, Rogue, and Madeline. And this Madeline is, and this is a situation that gets Madeline turned into the Goblin Queen. Like, so, okay. But yeah, I would say look up the adversary. He is a pretty big deal. I'm excited because there's a part of me that knows what's coming, but it's not coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
It's, again, I'm too excited about what just happened. I can't remember everything. But it's gonna be big, I hope. I think with how the show is going, it is doing these events in a big way. So I think no matter what happens, it's still gonna at least hold a punch and an impact to what's going on with our merry band of mutants.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm
just excited.
Something about the adversary that like I remember from like long ago, because I I know that the adversary appears a lot whenever Forge is around. Outside of being like the embodiment of fear, and I remember like I don't know if this is a spoiler, but there's a character, I think their name was Roma, something like that.
Yes.
That involved the adversary, because back then this is also they were in a game too. So
oh my God, look, Mike, you're putting my blocks together in my brain. So actually, Roma and the adversary are part of what connects the team of X-Men going into the Outback.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I said. This was like I'm pulling like from like old, long because the Adversary was a character I was interested in a long time ago, mainly because of like they were fear itself. So, well, that was one of the things like involving it. Like I said, like my knowledge is like very minuscule. But like when I'm
gonna send you the Cerebral Forge episode. It goes into all of this. Like, but right now I'm still on their Hepzibah episode, and Hepzibah is a member of the Starjammers, which is the space group who she's pretty much married to Scott's father, Corsair, Chris Summers, which I was kind of talking about I think a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
Or last week because of how
Christopher Charles Summers, yeah.
Right.
And Cable. That was the other thing, because I was really interested in Cable's character, and then I know for Adversary and Adversary and Cable also was my knowledge is way mixed up. Yeah,
and that's the thing that happened to me. Like, so you're just base mixed up because like obviously you pick it. I get mixed up because I get so excited. My brain doesn't function.
Because you have all this extra knowledge as well too. So it's just like mixing up the timelines.
X-Men have been around since the 60s, and a lot of these characters from the 70s, and I'm just like, there's so much knowledge in my brain. I can't sit through it after just a 20-minute episode of a show. Which is so funny because I watch a lot of other people talk about X-Men 97, and they're so concise, and sometimes I feel maybe they take a beat and then talk about it, whereas we kind of just go right into it.
Yeah, we're just off the dome trying to
trying to remember all this shit. But it's Roma is also like I think she's the daughter of. Is she the daughter of Merlin?
Let me check. Roma,
which just had a situation with Ten of Swords in the comics a couple years ago. And Roma is a friend to mutants.
Roma is a fictional character appearing in the comic books. His daughter of Merlin.
Wow, Kayla, pulling shit.
Yeah. Roma is the Omniversal Guardian charged with the safety of the Omniverse. She is assisted by her in her task by Saturnine.
Saturnine.
Okay. Saturnine and the Captain Britain Corps.
Oh, I'm gonna vomit. Oh my god, I think that's the other thing too. I was thinking about all that. I was just like, oh god, if Roma gets involved, it is possible that Otherworld, which is the magical land, gets involved, which means Captain Britain, who now in the comics is actually Betsy Braddock, who for a long time was Psylocke, who was in Kanan's body, who
it just keeps on going.
There's so many connections and the fact that there's only 6 episodes left and I can't quite there's just so much too much. Look,
I wonder if we're gonna get our boy Nightcrawler, aka Kurt.
Oh yeah, they already revealed that there's a picture of him. There's a scene already cut of him bamfing between Gambit and Rogue, and it's so cute. And I was like, when your mother is forcing you to take your little brother out on your date, even though I do know that Kurt is older than Rogue. But it's just like super cute, and
that's the scene that's going currently viral on Twitter, like of Rogue and Nightcrawler, and then the statue that they just be like that Rogue just threw off this balcony type thing. Like that's the scene that I just like. That's literally all. It's been all over my Twitter timeline like the last 4 days, and with Mystique. Yeah.
It's like so. Also, I want to say something about Val Cooper.
Yeah.
And Mystique, but I feel like if I do, that might be a spoiler. So
we'll save it. Yeah.
I'll save it. But if you're interested, I say look into that situation. I mentioned it before. Mystique used to work for Val Cooper. And Mystique and Forge worked together under Val Cooper. Rogue used to be a terror. Anyway, God. So there's also a lot of that too, where it's just like again, like the Madeline calling herself Goblin Queen, Storm with the mohawk. It's also like, at what point did Rogue and Magneto meet? Yes, it's a lot of, oh god, it's a lot, guys, it's a lot. I'm so excited for next week's episode. I'm also excited for this to hurry up and fucking finish, because I want to get my thoughts concisely together, because I feel like I'm just rambling, and I am. And I feel like I'm not really giving it to you guys the way it should be brought, the way we have anime discussions, and I apologize. I'm trying my best. It's just a lot of information in my head.
Don't worry. Nah, like, it's all digestible, and I feel that people who are watching the X-Men, like our content, will understand. So
yeah. Okay, so I just want to say, though, hopefully by the end of episode 10, I will have all my thoughts together. Like I said, it took me a week to get my Madeline Pryor thoughts together. I think by episode 10, I'll be more concise, and when we edited this all together for a big conversational YouTube video, people don't shit on me. Look, again, I must reiterate, I have not read every fucking comic.
Yeah.
So please be kind.
Like folks that are gonna be out there like, what? Yeah, nah. Like, the fact that the majority of people coming into this are still actually like blind about like what happened in the actual comics. But shout outs, to those that are not so hard pressed about information.
Yeah. And I appreciate it. But I will give out like a lot of my sources aside from the comic books, and just, trying to get through the Wikipedia. Cerebro has been a really big help getting my thoughts together, and also helping me change my views on a lot of characters that I either loved or already loved or didn't like. They've done a Gambit episode, they've done a Beast episode, Logan, Storm, Rogue, and Connor, who's the host of the pod, does like my second favorite Rogue accent. It's stupid and ridiculous. They've done a Morph episode, and they talk about Morph's OG appearances, the Changeling, and the Morph from the Exiles. So it's a lot when you go into Morph. They've done Remy, they've done Jubilee, they've done Magneto. He hasn't done Bishop yet, and he's done Scott, Maddie, and Jean. Honestly, listen to the Maddie episode. That shit is 20 hours long and is a lot of fun. So if you want to get a better contextual idea, especially from last week's episode, I say listen to that, and the Forge episode. If it's the Forge is also a backdoor Storm episode too, so you'll get a lot of context for what's going on with Storm, Forge, and the Adversary. If you want to jump ahead of me fumbling through an explanation of all this shit.
Oh man. It's all good. So I guess with that said, folks, we'll leave it off here until next week for some more X-Men 97. You already know. Doses.